No, I don't think the public's heard enough at all. Science, lots of science, including biotech, but also artificial intelligence, data science, lots of the emerging kind of scientific innovation that's happening around climate science, for example, is radically changing our world and will really rapidly change our world. And these are not inevitable decisions that science is taking us forward to some utopia. The sorts of choices that we make in terms of politically what we allow and don't allow, how we have ownership over these technologies, who benefits and who doesn't benefit, will dictate the direction of those technologies. And the public is not involved in any of those forms of conversations in a systematic way. There are lots of attempts around the world to do that, and one of the ones that we've been involved in is something that's funded by the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills in the UK called ScienceWise, which has over the last 10 or so years been organising deeply deliberative fora for the public to engage with scientists and policymakers on some of these big scientific questions, but I think that there certainly should be more of this on an ongoing basis rather than these one-off engagements that happen around a particular policy decision, because one of the challenges you therefore have if you don't engage the public on an ongoing basis is the public just doesn't have the understanding of the issue to be able to engage effectively and quickly. I think over the last 5 to 10 years, the thing that has really begun to disrupt government and technology is the ability for citizens to access evidence, scientific evidence, but other forms of evidence as well, much more easily with the internet, and also to connect to and organise themselves with like-minded people. So I think it's that ability for the public now to be able to identify people who think like them and organise with them. That means that campaigns that might have taken 10 years to get off the ground can happen very quickly with very little warning. So I think that it's the changes in technology that allows the public to organise that is the most disruptive in terms of the public engaging with the sorts of policy decisions that are implied by science and technology innovation. I think the biggest challenges are amongst policymakers and scientists themselves. The public has been demonstrated by ScienceWise and lots of other work, are more than capable of understanding enough of the science and very complex science around biotechnology, around nanotechnology and so on, to be able to engage in intelligent conversations. Indeed, when I started my job at Involve 7 years ago, and one of the publications I read before I went to interviewed a nanotech scientist who said, I went into these conversations with the public not really sure what on earth I would get out of them, and by the end of the conversations the whole direction of my research had changed. And so the public are more than capable of engaging with these conversations, but the trouble is they want to have a conversation that isn't just about science and risk. They want to have a conversation about the impact of the science on politics, on economics and on society and culture, and neither scientists nor policymakers are well positioned and think it necessary or even able to think of their domain in those terms. And so the only terrain that the public can have a conversation with a scientist and a policymaker on is the terrain of science and risk, which means that they bring to bear all of their other worries about who's going to own this technology, who's going to benefit from it, what does it mean to be human if you're going to begin to change germlines and so on. These are really fundamental questions the public want to have a conversation with scientists about, because they know the science direction of the science isn't fixed, but they cannot have it. So the biggest challenge is changing the culture of science in academia and industry, as well as policymakers, to be much more open to a much wider debate and having the direction of their research and the direction of innovation changed as a result of those conversations with the public.